everyone. Welcome to Indigenous Allyship Tuesday here on the podcast. If you've ever wondered how to support Indigenous people in ways that are real, respectful, and actually help, you're in the right place. Today we're breaking down 5 clear, practical ways you can make a difference at work, in your community, and in your everyday conversations. No guilt, no overwhelm, just real talk and real steps anyone can start this week. If you're ready to move from I want to help to I know what to do, let's get started. As always, my name is Ian Hopfee. I'm an HR consultant here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and I'm also Indigenous from Northern Alberta, the Big Stone Cree Nation in North Central Alberta. That's Treaty 8 territory. So I like to talk about Indigenous stuff, and I do that on Tuesdays. Welcome to the show. You need to get a hold of me for something. I would use this link here. All my links, this takes you to my link tree, and hopefully that pops up in the chat on some socials. What my link tree has is my simple little ebook to help small businesses stop staff drama in 5 days. That's there. You can also link to all my other links that I like to talk about. And of course, you could set up a meeting with me. What do I call it? I call it a discovery meeting. I think that's all the way at the bottom of the list. Anywho, enough of that today. See my name there. Anytime during the show, please ask your question in the comments. I'm always open for questions. If you have a great question and it completely takes over the show, that's the dangerously unscripted part of the show. If I get on a topic that I really want to talk about, we may stay there, but I try to keep on topic for the topics I gave you at the start of the show. Oh, I didn't give you the specific topics. I just said we're talking about 5 things, right? What we're talking about today specifically, number 1, allyship versus aesthetics. Number 2, how to start truth and reconciliation in your workplace without getting overwhelmed. 3, everyday anti-racism, small things non-Indigenous people can do. Number 4, Indigenous homelessness, what people get wrong and what real compassion looks like. And number 5, ask an Indigenous human. I'm Indigenous. Anytime during the show you can ask a question, but I'll try to answer more of them or get into more detail at the end of the show. Questions about culture, misconceptions, respect, like all that sort of thing. I can only give you so much culture because I am not considered an elder or a knowledge keeper for my people. So I can only give you the basic culture stuff, but that's great. That's all right. Get you going in the right direction at least. I feel like this light's not bright enough. Maybe I should try to brighten it up. Oh, there's more bright. Maybe that'll help. It's kind of a gloomy day here in Edmonton. I do have my natural light, the window open there, but sometimes I'm a little dark over here. I'm in the dark here. What movie is that from? Al Pacino, Scent of a Woman. I'm in the dark here. That's when he plays that blind colonel. Anyway, so we're going to get started. I just need to have a cough. I finished my tea already, so I'm on to water. Oh, nice water. Nice water. Anyway, So, allyship versus aesthetics. Sometimes organizations, they kind of go through the motions, but they don't do the things. And I just want to say, if you're going through the motions and you're starting to try to do things differently within your organization, that's better than nothing. But you should always keep going, try to improve what you're doing. What real Indigenous support looks like beyond the orange shirts. The orange shirts is something. Orange Shirt Day, yes, do it. And I've been part of some Orange Shirt Day events at organizations. They've called us in to do the Kairos blanket exercise. And the Kairos blanket exercise is more than just makeup and an orange shirt, right? The Kairos blanket exercise is an educational experience, and you learn the base history of Indigenous people in Canada. And it is a very good starting point for anyone anyone who wants to start their reconciliation journey or their organizational reconciliation journey. And the Kairos blanket exercise, sometimes it takes a couple. You have to participate a couple times before it really starts to hit you on the issues or the graveness of the situation. But you learn a lot more. Learn the base stuff, and it's impactful. Like, oh my God. You could just get knocked over with the emotions that could come out of the Kairos blanket exercise. I highly advise that you book one for your organization. The Kairos blanket exercise is good for groups of 20 to 50. It'd be nice if a good group, 25, 30. That's a great group. If you have a smaller team, so you got 5 or 10 employees, invite family members to the event. So if you got 10 employees and they all bring a spouse or a teenage child or a brother or sister or something like that, you get everyone just to bring one person, you end up having a group of 20, and it's really great. It's a really great size group to be doing that. I mean, as long as you have the space, you could have, your team members inviting their whole family. I wouldn't advise young children to come to a regular Kairos blanket exercise because the material is quite advanced and really designed more for adults. Some schools have adapted a version for younger school children, but those of us who are officially certified through Kairos blanket exercise, we don't have a child's version. There was a youth version, but that's really designed more for teenagers. And I think a teenager might be mature enough, smart enough to just go to the regular Kairos blanket exercise. So that's really important. It's training. And if you're a larger organization, I would say put it on a couple times a year, right? And just keep it going. Sometime in the spring, sometime in the fall, try to avoid summer holidays, try to avoid the cold winter time, right? So certainly a couple times a year. Spring and summer is a good time for that. And, spring and fall is a good time for that sort of thing. With the Kairos blanket exercise, it's more than just let's all wear orange shirts on Orange Shirt Day. It's more than let's do a territorial land acknowledgement at our meetings. It's more than just putting the land acknowledgement in your emails or on your website, right, or on official documents like your yearly reports and stuff like that. It's one step beyond that, right? That first part is kind of, why did I want to say smoke and mirrors? It's not smoke and mirrors. It's like lipstick and eyeliner, basically, right? You're putting it on. You're doing that, but actually getting training for your employees, that's one step up from just aesthetics, right? You're actually training. You're actually inviting Indigenous people into your organization to train your people. I would say the next step after starting that Indigenous journey with your people is making a commitment to hire 5% Indigenous people. Here in Canada, with the sharing of the land with Indigenous people, which the treaties state is important, it's important that you go that one step further and say, okay, I'm going to hire Indigenous people as much as possible and try to get at least 5% of your employees as Indigenous people. And that's more than the aesthetics. That is walking the walk, along with doing some actual training like the Kairos blanket exercise, right? This is because it is hard. It is not hard. It is hard to be an actual ally to Indigenous people or to Black people or whatever, people of color, right? Like, it's hard to be that ally when you don't have the basic knowledge, the basic understanding, the background information, because you need to be able to understand the situation and give way to the Indigenous people. I do have some notes here on I don't want to show this. How do I turn that off? I got all kinds of stuff. Okay, I just want to show this screen. That's, I don't know. It's going to show a little bit more than you need to see. But I want to share this. Let's get me up there. So, of course it's not. Customize. Anyway. Yeah, you can see that all right. So, what it means to be an ally. Now, this has been adapted from these sources. They're great sources for, Guide to Allyship. It's really designed for people of color in the United States, but it's the same sort of thing. So when you're talking about what it means to be an ally, I'm going to touch on these real quick. So, 1, take on the struggles as your own, but don't label yourself as an ally. continue learning, ask the experts how you can help and be active. How can I help? How can I help? Please let me know how I can help, right? That's more important than the white savior situation where you're like, I know what you need, right? It is, how can I help? Number 2, stand up for what's right even when you feel scared. Be the first to speak up against belligerent individuals or large oppressive power structures. So it is hard to be that person to say, "Oh, wait a minute. You're not being right about this," right? Especially when you're in your peer group. You're in a group of all men and someone starts talking badly about women. It's hard for you to stand up and say, "Whoa, don't speak about women that way." So it's the same thing if you're hanging out with all your white friends and they start talking about how Indigenous people or people of color, this or that, it's really hard for you to come forward and say, "Whoa, let's not talk about that. I know that's not the truth. That's all, whatever," right? It's hard to stand up. So that's the work of being an ally. It is hard. Number 3, transfer the benefits of your power and privilege to those who lack it by introducing them to or recommending them to your networks as the experts, right? Here's Ian. He's an expert in human resources. Ian happens to be Indigenous, right? So you've given way. You've said this is the expert. You listen to him. Number 4, engage in self-reflection of what you have and experience versus what others don't have or their reality, right? Everyone has a different life experience. So you just got to try to relate, right? Everybody's like, "Oh, we're all poor," or "We're all poor at some level." I like to say we're all broke, just at different levels, right? Because we've purchased different things or made more commitments when we make more money. So we're kind of broke at different levels. This is kind of the same thing. And this is hard for us to reflect, right? We think we have it bad, but in actuality, other people we're trying to support may have it way worse, right? Just think about that. Number 5, acknowledge that while you too feel pain and responsibility, the conversation is not about you. Give center stage and credit to the experts and their story. So don't tell a story about Indigenous people. Give way for the Indigenous person to tell their story. Right? There's a difference. There's a really big difference. Anyway, there's a bunch of next steps here, but that's not what I'm going to talk about today. Stop the screen share. So you kind of got to take that next step. Yes, you might have to put on some makeup. Kind of the first step is pretending that you care about people. But the really next step, I think, is getting into training, teaching your organization about these issues so that they are well informed, so that they can actually personally or as part of the group in your organization to take that, those next steps into being a true ally. Number 2, how to start truth and reconciliation in your workplace without getting overwhelmed. Because last week I talked about the TRC Call to Action number 92. I'm going to try to give you 3 steps any business can take this week. No, and I'll try to keep it simple, right? So you're trying to do the Truth and Reconciliation Commission call to action number 92. As a business, if you're a different organization, go to the calls of action and find out which one better applies to you, because there's certain industries, healthcare, education, these things have different implications for Indigenous people. But if you're just a business, any old business, a normal business, mom and pop store, maybe you sell insurance, whatever your business is, right? Keep it simple, right? Learn about the local Indigenous people. Find out who the closest group of Indigenous people are and learn about them. You could just do a simple Google search, or be a little more daring and go down to their main administration office and ask if you can talk to someone to learn more about the people, right? Now that's daring. You might get a member of their chief and council to come sit with you for half an hour, right? They'll be happy to share information with you. You never know. But take that, the first step is learn about the local people. There's always local Indigenous people around in your area, and learn about them. So that's kind of a simple first step. Just learn. It might be also as simple as going to the local friendship center, Indigenous Friendship Center. Or searching for other local Indigenous nonprofits. They're out there. Search for them. If you're in a big city like Edmonton, there's lots of options. So big cities should give you lots of options to do this search. So yeah, learn about the local people. That's step one, kind of, if you want to get this truth and reconciliation action going. Step two, schedule that Kairos blanket exercise or some other learning for your team. Get that booked. Contact, I think it's kairosblanketexercise.ca, or do a search. Contact me. If you're listening to this, you might be in Edmonton or in Alberta, you can contact me. Book that training session for your people. And that's the Kairos blanket exercise, right? Learn about the local people. Book a training session so that your people can actually start this journey of reconciliation for them. And I would say step three is make that commitment to start hiring 5% people. This topic was kind of related to the first one, and I kind of wandered into it a little bit just naturally. But it's kind of those three steps. Learn about the local Indigenous people, book some educational training for your people, and what was the third one I said? I lost it. 3 steps any business should take for this week. Learn about it. Book some training. Oh, commit to the 5%. Sit down with your people and tell them, moving forward, we're going to try to hire more Indigenous people, and we're going to try to get to 5%. If you got 10 people in your organization, just try to get one Indigenous person there, right? It's not too hard. So you would have to, your next round of job ads, put the poster up or email it to Indigenous organizations for them to share with their email lists, or to put up on their billboards at their location, right? I wouldn't even put it up on Indeed if you're really trying to get Indigenous people, because Indeed's going to get you, the 500 resumes of people that aren't Indigenous, and they all just desperately need a job, right? So so you got to try to think of the places where you can put up that job ad. Number 3. Just reading my notes here. Always got something in the back of my throat. Sorry, guys. If I had someone on the show, I could mute myself and the other person could be talking and I could be coughing while they're talking. Yeah. If you want to be on the show, man, look at my show information in my link. I think it's the second or third one down. It gives you all the information about my shows, and you can come on the show and we can talk about your business related to the topic of the day, right? So don't be scared. Oh. Still choking here. Sorry, guys. Anyway, we're moving on to topic number 3. And this is kind of like, well, I'm calling it everyday anti-racism, right? I want to talk about the small things that non-Indigenous people can do that make a big difference. These are kind of bite-sized guidance, but kind of, I don't know, but make a big difference, I guess. So I think if you're a business owner or something like that, you may put these sorts of tips up on how to be anti-racist within your organization. But these are things that you got to remind your people, well, they're not just doing it at work. They should be doing it while they're just living their life, while they're not at work, right? Oh, someone's chatting here. Whoa! Chat spammer from Twitch. Best views on streamboo.com. Best viewers. Alright, I don't know. These guys are spamming the heck out of Twitch and trying to get people to go over to this streamboo.com. Pretty sad. Now, we did touch on this a little bit when we talked about what it means to be an ally, right? And it's a lot of just standing up for Indigenous people where you see it. And I know it is so hard. I mean, it's hard for me because I'm Indigenous. It's even harder, if you see someone homeless on the street, there's a good chance that here in Edmonton, that homeless person is Indigenous. Because I know from our facts a few years back, of the 3,000 homeless people in Edmonton, our houseless neighbors, about 500 of them were from my First Nation. And that hurts because I'm really closely related to just about everybody in my nation, right? And through my grandparents and all their brothers and sisters, right? That's the family. That's the family grouping, right? Multiple families that I'm closely related to. And I know a lot of these people are living on the streets. And it is hard. I personally don't have the resources to help every Indigenous person I see living on the streets. There's no way. There's no way I could do that. And there's no way you can do that. So what do we got to do to be anti-racist, right? We can always speak out. We talked about that, right? Speak out, give way for Indigenous people, because being anti-racist is almost the same set of rules as being an ally. And I'm so ashamed. I'm trying to avoid politics on this show, but the current Alberta government is not a reflection of the people of this province. It's the reflection of the people of the majority that voted during that last election, right? And there's a lot of people that are really discouraged by elections, or what's the word I'm looking for? Apathetic. They don't care about elections because they know their vote doesn't count. They know this because that's basically true. If you didn't vote for the person who won in your constituency, your electoral district, if you didn't vote for that person, your vote didn't count, got thrown out, just completely thrown out. And we have a lot of different views across the political spectrum here in Alberta, and they are not being shown in government, not being reflected in how we vote. And this is causing, when 30 to 40% of the voters elected a certain party and that party got majority power. How is that? How can only 30 to 40% of the voters give 100% of the power to one party? This is, it's a fundamental flaw within our political system. First past the post. We can't really do anything until that's fixed. How can I say, let's be anti-racist, or let's try to do the good thing for all the people, when my electoral system fights against me at every step of the way because certain parties are too desperate to get voted in next time, so they'll just say and do whatever to get the most votes, right? I want an electoral system where each of us can vote with our heart for what we really believe in. And we saw this once in Alberta. That was the 44-year miracle when the NDP formed government. Now, this is like the underlying proof that most Albertans aren't conservative, right? But because the Conservative Party or conservative people were split into two true parties. We still had the Progressive Conservatives, which were more fiscal conservatives, and we had the Wild Rose Party, which were more social conservatives. And that is a true picture of conservative, or a better picture of conservatism, of the conservatives in this province. Not all conservatives care about balancing the budget, and not all conservatives care about oppressing other viewpoints, or okay, I don't want to say oppressing, but they believe in their values and it shows through with the Wild Rose Party. That is where they belong. That is their people. So when you have the splits, the proper splits of the political parties within government, then you see a more true view of the people, right? And that's why I don't like the political system down in the United States. They do have other political parties, but nobody votes for them because they keep saying they're just a two-party system. Well, when you have a center party and a right-leaning party only, you've got real no left representation. All the people on the left have no choice but to vote for that center party. And that's, it's not fair. And I think down in the States, the political parties could get split up a little bit more, right? The Democrats are basically a center party. Republicans are a right-leaning party. But again, they're two different groups in there. They could split up. The center parties, that could split up into two groups. And there should be some better left option, right? And we're missing that in a lot of places. And I think we got leftovers from the anti-communist and the Red Scare stuff of the 50s and 60s and 70s, right? Like, this is, communism is bad. Well, I mean, it's not bad. It's truly not bad. If you think being left or communist or socialist is a bad thing, go do your research. It's not. It's just about the people. Whereas a lot of times on the right, we're blindly supporting a billionaire that doesn't give a shit about us. Right? You are never going to be that billionaire. So, big organizations, rich people, they care about their money. They care about keeping the money. And that's what they do. So, I mean, if you're social conservative, your vote option is being twisted by this, so-called fiscal conservatives who only worship billionaires, right? Like, it's twisting. It's taking your fundamental values and twisting them to do things to make people rich, right? And it's sad. So the whole rant, was that it's hard for me to talk about anti-racism stuff when the government is actively attacking anti-racism stuff, because some people think that by being equal to everybody, by supporting everybody, it's attack on them personally. And that's it's racism. It is. So if you're a white person, particularly a white middle-aged male, and you live in Canada or the United States, if you live in Canada, the system, the whole underlying system of government, elections, business, land ownership, zoning bylaws, it's all geared towards supporting you. That's just the way the system is. It is just naturally biased to support white middle-aged males, right? And when we look at it like that, it feels like an attack, but it's not. It is trying to equal the playing field for everyone, so the system supports everyone, not just naturally supporting this one group. So as soon as we try to level that playing field, the people that were supported the most in the original system feel attacked. And that's absolutely not what's happening. And, until everybody realizes this, we're just trying to make everyone equal. We're trying to equal the playing field. And there's always that money question. Well, why should my hard work and my money go to support other people? Because that's what we do as humans. That is the morally responsible thing to do. Because we, as a group, I spoke earlier about how I just feel completely helpless because there's no way I can individually make a difference. But we, as a group, can make a difference for those, houseless people on the street, or houseless neighbors who are living in the park. We, as a group, can do that and eliminate all the issues that quickly. We just have to have the will to do it. But we have certain groups saying this is an attack on them, and it's attack on the systems that help them get into positions of power and help them become a billionaire, right? If you have a lot of money, if you've thrived in this condition, in this environment, in this economy, you are skilled enough, lucky enough, blessed enough to survive in this economy. You have a moral responsibility to make sure everyone else is supported. So why do you not want to support people? Why? The funny thing is, the average person is not going to be the one who's footing the bill for any of this anti-racism stuff, right? It's not. If you make less than $1 million a year, it's probably not coming out of your pocket. Very little. It's not even going to be noticeable, right? Someone's going to take $1 a year out of your pocket, right? If you make more money, like I said, you have that moral and ethical responsibility to support more of your fellow people, right? And I think if you really want to support anti-racism, I say support a political party that is fighting for proportional representation, because that will allow us to vote with our heart and we'll be able to see the true political spectrum of Alberta, right? We're going to see more of the religious parties get a couple seats. We're going to see more of the green parties getting seats. We're going to see more of, the Socialist Party get more seats, right? And it's going to be this just beautiful, colorful spectrum And I hate the argument, but if someone doesn't get a majority, they can't govern properly. You mean they can't bully everyone and just mow everyone over like the current government is doing right now? We're like suffering right now. Indigenous people, women, parents, teachers, healthcare employees, people in the trans and LGBTQ plus communities, right? Everybody's suffering right now. These just, I don't want to say insane. There is some basis in this stuff, but a lot of the stuff you change, a united conservative party is using the excuse of we're cutting a budget to be racist, right? That's their, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to get rid of this, or we're going to stop this strike. And I mean, it's kind of disgusting to me, because I love everybody and I want everybody to have a chance, and everyone deserves a chance. We're all humans. None of us should be left out. None of us should be left on the streets. And there's all these silly arguments. But I don't want to give money to someone who's got an addiction. Well, it's proven that if you give someone an opportunity, like 70% of these people solve their own problems. And then we just got to worry about the 30% that need a little bit more support. And I mean, if you're worried a bunch of drug addicts are going to get more drugs, I mean, well, you might get your wish and they might all OD. So I don't know what your problem is. Right? It's a strange argument to say, I don't want to support people that are having trouble. It's a disgusting argument, actually, because it's proven that if we just help people, it's cheaper than all the government systems that we have to put together. So a true fiscal government is going to say, let's start proportional representation. Let's start a universal basic income program. Let's start housing first policies, right? Everything should be based on getting people out of poverty, right? Their voices need to be heard, proportional representation. They need the ability to support themselves now, universal basic income. And they need the ability to go beyond survival. And that's housing first policies. In a perfect world, I would say, if I was a teenager, I finished high school, maybe I'm going to move on to university, higher education, or maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm just going to start working. But instead of just staying home with my parents, I should be able to get into a housing program that is for single teenagers or single young adults, and, you know, go into the young adult housing program. Because too often we end up getting in situations where people don't have their own home and they don't feel like people, right? So anti-racism is a lot of things going on, and I think if we have the right government, boom, we can solve all these problems instantly, overnight. But even when we do get the right government, they miss the mark. When we talk about the 44-year miracle, The NDP, as far as I'm concerned, the NDP had one job, and that was to start proportional representation in this province. They probably would have formed government the next time. Probably not a majority government, but they probably would have had first dibs at forming a minority government, right? Because now everybody could just vote for who they wanted from their heart. We'd probably have better voter turnout because everybody knows that most of, everybody's vote's going to count. In a proportional representation system, something like 95 to 98% of all votes counted to get somebody elected, right? Whether it's from a small party or a big party, most of the votes counted. And that's got to feel good, right? So, yeah. Anyway, anti-racism. Sorry, that was a terrible rant. So, that leads into number 4. I was going to talk about Indigenous homelessness. And, it really hurts when I know that 500 of my distant relatives are living on the streets of Edmonton where I'm not. I've got a house. I've got a spouse who has a great job, and the least we could do is bring my mother-in-law in, my disabled mother-in-law, and she helps support the household. And it's just, there's a lot of privilege in my life, but not enough for me individually to go out and support every Indigenous homeless person. Even in my home community, there's a large number of my houseless relatives, and it's kind of hidden, right? My friend calls it the couch surfing. You're living at your relative's house, you're just living on their couch. It's like staying with your parents, but you're with, extended family, and you're kind of surfing from house to house on their couch and stuff like that. There's a lot of people doing that because they can't afford their own place. But in a small community like that, there's not a lot of new housing stock to support the growing community. If you happen to be lucky enough to work out in the oil field and make really great money, even then it's hard to get yourself into your own house because you got to do the savings, but then you're supporting your family, whatnot, right? So when you think about the homelessness, the houselessness, it isn't because Indigenous people are lazy and unwilling to work. This is one main reason why I facilitate the Kairos blanket exercise, because new Canadians their only interaction with Indigenous people is that dude sitting on the corner in downtown Edmonton, panhandling, begging for money. That's their first experience of Indigenous people. And it's instantly puts a thought that Indigenous people are lazy, drunks, have major addictions, and things like that. They don't know the history of Indigenous people. The 500 years of oppression, man. Like, it's there. The generational trauma, it's there. The continued overt, but mainly covert racism in Canada is there. The systems are also not designed to support Indigenous people. In my home community, there's on-reserve schools and there's off-reserve schools. The community, the hamlet, is right next to the reserve. The off-reserve school gets more funding per student than the on-reserve school, right? They get half funding. What's wrong with this system? Why would an on-reserve school get less money than an off-reserve school? That's systemic racism. It is not someone purposely saying you're a bunch of dirty Indigenous people and you don't deserve the money. The system has been designed that way. The funding over here comes from the federal government because the federal government sees Indigenous people as their problem. And they're doing everything to continue to oppress us. It's there. And anyone who complains about, oh, we're giving all this money to Indigenous people and they're lazy and, that's the way this treaties were interpreted by colonial governments. Indigenous people said, yeah, sure, we'll share the land. There's lots here. We'll all be happy. That's what we thought. That's how Indigenous people see the treaties. We share. And we all gain from the abundance. But the way the government treated that over the years and created the Indian Act, that's what made Indigenous people so dependent. You must go live on a reserve. You're not allowed to leave the reserve for any reason. You're basically saying, oh, grandma, you have to live in this little closet and we'll push a little bit of food now and again, like a couple pieces of bologna under the door for you, and you should be fine. Just don't come out and annoy everybody, right? That's exactly what happened. Indigenous people were basically betrayed, put on the reserve, and said, you need to depend on us for everything. And in modern day, you come back and complain that Indigenous people get all kinds of money for stuff. Well, they get half the money and half the rights, right? Like, it's been a slow progression to get these rights for Indigenous people. Very similar to the rights of women, except we're still behind. So there is not a lot of money going to Indigenous people. There is not. And anyone who says different's just not educated. They don't know. And I can't blame them, because we live in societies that are systemically designed to make us think less of other people, other races, other sexes, other genders, right? People that do other things or look different from us. The system is designed to uphold that separation, right? So when it comes to Indigenous homelessness, the people on the street aren't there because they're lazy. They're there because the system we all live in, the system we all pay into, the system we all love has forgotten them in some way, shape, or form, the system is not supporting a certain segment of our society. And I just love the way it's like the powers that be say, oh, those people are always like that. Those people are lazy. Those people are a bunch of drug addicts. Those people are different from us. Those people don't understand how the economy works. I shit you not, 100% of us don't know how to make money in a capitalist economy. If we all knew how to make money in a capitalist economy, we would all be rich, right? Most of us have no clue how to make money in a capitalist society. Even with all these tools we have and things like that, now take a group of people that have been hit over and over repeatedly with BS policies, and you expect them to just get a job. Go get a job. I'm tired of my tax money going to you. Shouldn't the attitude be, how can I help you get a job so that our tax money together can support other people? Right? Shouldn't that be how it is? Shouldn't we be trying to find a way to support these people other than just being ignorant and saying, get a job and get off the drugs, stop drinking? Right? Like, how do you... I don't understand the mind of a racist. The problem is, most of these people who I can see are, they're obviously racist. I see this because I'm Indigenous. I see this. I can see this. But the people doing it, they can't see it. It's very bizarre. But we should be working together, everybody, to try to get every houseless neighbor off the streets. It's going to be cheaper than all these extensive social service programs. I mean, why do we half-ass stuff? We could solve homelessness tomorrow. Absolutely. Easy peasy. But we can solve it. But we don't do that. Instead, we say, instead of going right to the fix, let's just add a little bit to this program and alter this program just a little bit. And that should solve it, right? This is the fix. Yes, it's probably going to be a one-time expense right now, but it is going to be cheaper than 100 years of the half-ass programs that you've put together. It's going to be way cheaper, man. Invest right now and change a whole segment of society into productive members of the society. I honestly believe there is not a pandemic or epidemic of people living off the government that is not an expense that's killing our governments and making all the red tape. It is not. It's absolutely not. There isn't. I mean, if you're worried about social service programs, I mean, look at the numbers. There isn't, 3 million to 5 million people in Alberta all getting free money from the government and not contributing. That's absolutely not what's going on. Right? I mean, You would have to put less money into policing if we had proper programs. As soon as someone's identified as someone who's got no home, we just snatch them up and say, you got a home now. Now you work to be productive. We'll give you all the support you need on that journey. I mean, that's better than saying, oh, we're gonna keep you poor. We're gonna keep you homeless. And instead, we're gonna help fund some soup kitchens that you might be able to get one meal a day from. Shelter spaces where you might be able to get out of the cold during the winter if you stand in line long enough. If you're lucky enough to get there early enough. I mean, this is not life, man. Yeah, we could solve homelessness tomorrow. If the government turned around and said, we're solving homelessness tomorrow. Get some money from the feds, get some money from the province. Then the city could say, we're buying 10 hotels and we're immediately putting homeless people into them. And we're setting up a couple programs to support them in their immediate journey. And then we're buying some apartment buildings and we're going to turn them into free long-term permanent housing and things like that. I mean, the builders who are building homes, they still have a market. They're selling homes for the rest of us who can afford a big house, a luxury home, luxury condo, right? That's where their market is. There's no builder out there saying, I want to build cheap units and make hardly any money off that, right? Like, tell me if you heard of something like that. But for the most part, builders are just trying to make some money. All right, that's their business model. Fine. Nobody's telling them to stop building nice homes, big homes for the average person or the rich people, right? Nobody's stopping you from doing that. Continue doing that. Because we need those too. Because at some point, maybe, that houseless person who got given a free home and got given a universal basic income will get clean, will find a job, will start paying back to the community that gave to them through taxes. And then they'll say, I'm ready to move out of this bachelor suite apartment that I was given, and I'm going to go buy my first house. I'm going to go buy a condo. Right? We're not thinking about the future of the industry for some reason. I don't get it. We can solve homelessness tomorrow. And it really is not going to be that expensive. If we got 3,000 homeless people on the street, I mean, some of them are couples and things like that, but we'll say 3,000 people. What does the average hotel have? What, like 100 rooms or something like that? I mean, 3,000 divided by 100. That's 30 hotels they could purchase tomorrow and start bringing in our houseless neighbors. That could be done tomorrow. How many hotels are there in Edmonton? Some hotels are bigger. They have like 200 rooms. Right? So, let's do a quick search. How many hotels in Edmonton, right? That didn't give me any. How many hotels are there in Canada? No. I got 55 hotels in Edmonton. That's what I got from hotelchange.com. How many hotel rooms in Edmonton? Edmonton has over 12,000 hotel rooms available across more than 55 hotels. So, 12,000 hotels in Edmonton divided by 55 hotels. The average hotel here in Edmonton has 118 rooms. So if we have 3,000 houseless people in Edmonton right now, it's probably gone up. This is just old data I've got. So 3,000 divided by 200. No, what's my calculation? That's 13 hotels. Yeah, 14. The city of Edmonton could purchase 14 hotels tomorrow and solve homelessness. "14 of the 55 hotels in Edmonton, and we could solve homelessness." That allows us time to build the housing stock that's needed. Not all these 3,000 people are going to move from this temporary hotel into a permanent social housing project. Some will spend the next 6 months there, change their lives, and move into their own place. All we got to do is set up a support. There's a support person at each hotel, and they meet with the clients whenever the client wants to. We're not forcing them unless they start partying it up too much or something, but we're never kicking them out. We are trying to give these people supports, right? There's always going to be a low percentage of people that just can't be given an opportunity and change themselves. There's a need for supports. We know this, whether that's addiction support or just monetary support or health support. I mean, do you think it's cheaper to have someone become homeless, have to rely on food, not even food banks, shelters, lunch, soup kitchen type stuff, and then get sick and have to put additional pressure on the healthcare system, right? Is that cheaper than saying, here's a hotel room for you for the next, until you get better, until you change your life around, right? What's cheaper? We would see a lot of pressure off our other social services because we said, we're getting you off the street, we're giving you a home. Tomorrow, 14 hotels could be purchased tomorrow, and the city of Edmonton will have solved the homeless problem. Tomorrow, 14 hotels. I just did the math. So, anyway, Chat. I was waiting for some questions to come in. There's no questions coming in. Basically, section number 5 today was ask an Indigenous human a question, ranked culture, misconceptions, and respect. I mean, there's certain things I like to talk about when it comes to culture. As an Indigenous person, traditionally, nobody owned anything. You couldn't own something that came from nature because nobody could own nature. This is traditional religious view of Indigenous people. Nobody owns nature. Nobody owns Mother Earth, right? That's ridiculous that someone could own something. So when the colonists came, we said, yeah, we don't own it, but we're happy to share it. Share, man. Colonial governments that came in and said, oh, we conquered you. Someone made a comment once on one of my posts that Indigenous people were conquered. No, not here in Canada, man. We had a treaty to share the land, and some of us weren't included in these treaties, and then we were cheated. We were cheated by the government during the course of this treaty. Whereas in the United States, after the Royal Proclamation, the United States government said we needed to expand west. So we're going to leave the British Empire, become our own country, and now we can head west because we don't have to listen to the king who said we can't go into Indian territory. So you could say in the United States, the Indigenous people are a conquered people. This is my sister. She made a comment. With the free housing, there needs to be mandatory self-help sessions and classes needed to learn how to budget and make resumes, to learn to interview. Otherwise, they fall into the I can't save enough cycle. Okay. I 100% agree that the resources need to be there. But I don't agree that it's mandatory. We are trying to create people. We are not trying to create people like us. Right? So if we move people, all the houseless people into this new 14 hotel apartment deal that the city of Edmonton does and says, everybody live here, you're homeless now. Right? Well, there's that support staff person I talked about. And the next level of this is giving the people some money. They need money to live. So anyone who's in this program could be given a certain amount of money, or if the hotel has a restaurant, they can get their free meals at the restaurant, things like that, right? There's this basic support. And then there's the support person. They got an office in the hotel, and they take meetings with the people that live there. And weekly they go around and try to have a quick chat with the people who didn't come to them for support, because just to check on them. But it's not to put them into a mandatory program, because that's not what everybody needs. Your thinking with the mandatory program is a really a savior complex, the white savior complex almost, where it's like, I know what you need, as opposed to tell me what you need. We need a softer approach. What do you need? It's the same thing when a white person comes into an Indigenous community. You don't go in I know what you need. This is what we're going to do. No, you roll in and you say, what do you need? I want to be an ally and support. What do you need? Tell me what you need. Right? So the mandatory part of this, I think it's not. The mandatory part of this is the appeasement of people that are going to argue that this is an expense that their tax money shouldn't be spent on. So, but absolutely, all the services should be there, all the support system should be there, but none of it should be mandatory. I mean, people just want to live. There's a lot of people that might not need any of these teachings. They might not need any support other than a roof over their head, because they're smart enough people that if they just got that one leg up, they know they can pull themselves out of it, right? So these people have to be given that opportunity of their self-development. I hate when there's barriers to entry for support. You know, it's like, oh, we'll give you supports, but you have to get a job first. Oh shit, man, I'm living on the streets. My only possession is a freaking crowbar because I break in the garages every night to go steal shit so I can go sell it to the pawn shops the next day. You think I have time or the ability or the will to go find a job? I don't even have clean clothes, man. Because the cops kicked me out of my tent last week and stole all my shit. Right? Like, a homeless person, a houseless neighbor, is a desperate person. They are in survival mode. Survival mode. I'm not in survival mode. I'm in the wow, my business isn't working mode. But I live in a house. I have the ability to do these sorts of things. I'm not in a tent, in the dog park, thinking I might freeze to death tonight. So what should I do? I'll go break into a heated garage and stay in there for a few hours tonight, right? If the cops don't come. I'm going to purposely commit a crime, but that's not too extreme so that I can get thrown into the drunk tank overnight and not freeze to death. This is survival mode. We need to get people out of the survival mode without barriers to entry. So, sorry, Joy. I kind of stomped on you a little bit, but we don't know if they're going to fall into a cycle. But we certainly need to give them resources, not force resources on them. And as something like this happens, we will learn what supports are most valuable in this situation. Because we really don't know. Again, it is a white savior position. I know what you need. The only thing I know these people need is a warm, safe place. I absolutely know that's what they need. I can't comment on anything else. Do they need education? Do they need addiction support? I don't even know if they need money. They might have a job. But like you said, Joy, they're in that can't save enough cycle because they live on the streets and they have a crappy job, so they continue living on the streets. But if I say I'm going to give you a home and a safe, secure place, that allows them to go to the next step and say to themselves, what do I do next? Right? I can't force the next step onto them. All I know is they need to get a safe place to live. That's it. That's all I can say for sure. Right? When it comes to houseless, homeless neighbors, right? Our houseless neighbors. All I can say for sure is they need a house. They need a home. They need something so that they themselves can decide what their next step is going to be. I'm not trying to tell them what their next step is. All I can do is say, we have all these supports here that we think you might need. It's voluntary for you to get these supports. Conditions, barriers to entry, that is bad policy. That is us being bad to our fellow humans. There's something I always think about this with the barrier to entry. When you think about, there was a while back, I think provincially, there was a grant program. I think it was a grant program or a reimbursement program for people who put their children through sports. So hockey, soccer, football, figure skating, whatever, right? Like I think it might have been a tax credit. So you had to show the receipt that you purchased all this equipment for your children, and then you were able to apply for the money back. I don't know if it was on taxes. I never got to use it, obviously. I don't have kids. But that's a barrier to entry. A poor family could not get their child into the sports program, especially something like hockey with all the expensive equipment. A poor family could not get their child into sports before or after this new policy came into place, because it was still a barrier to entry, having to first purchase all this equipment for my child. Because poor families, low-income families, don't have enough money, Joy, to get themselves out of their living conditions, let alone get their child into a quality sports program. So it was not a very good policy. Essentially, it was a policy that supported rich families, because only a rich family could purchase the equipment to get their children into a sports to start with. And then now they're getting some or all that money back. I don't know how much the reimbursement was. There was still that barrier to entry. So when you think about programs like that, it's useless to poor people. And when you think about, we're hitting back on some racism here, a lot of programs are designed for rich people and or white people, just because a high portion of Indigenous people, people of color, Black people, are poorer. So if we have a program that only benefits rich people, we immediately can be happy with ourselves because we're being racist towards poor people. And because most poor people are in other demographics that we don't care about. Yes, there are some white people that are poor too, right? But that's cannon fodder for the system, right? So barrier to entry, making something mandatory is a barrier to entry. I think a lot about barriers to entry socially like this, because now that my mother-in-law lives with us and she's disabled and she gets around primarily in her wheelchair, we had to think about everything. How does she get into the house? What size vehicle do we need? How wide does the sidewalk need to be coming up to the house? Can she get through the doors? Can she get down the hallway? Can she get into the kitchen? We're still fighting with that because we're slowly shifting our kitchen around. Where do you want your stuff? Someplace where you can grab it, right? So we're moving slowly. Things are migrating. That the things that she uses are migrating to a spot where she can access it better. And we had to expand the bathroom, and we had to take the tub out because now she needs to just easily get into the shower space, and all these sorts of things. And when we take her places, I get so frustrated because someone's blocking the handicap stall, or the handicap stall is stupid. There's no ramp. You got to go like halfway around the building to access the ramp. And lo and behold, there's a light post in the middle of the sidewalk, right? Or during the winter, they're not shoveling the ramp properly, and there's this giant lip down at the bottom of the ramp where you still got to try to get your wheelchair through, right? And it just barriers to entry. We're not thinking, how is this really going to affect someone's ability to change their lives? And if you're in survival mode, you need to have that ability to just get the support and get the stability so you can start thinking straight. Because not everybody whose only enjoyment out of life is to get drunk or get high because they're living in a tent in the dog park. Not all of them are going to need assistance to stop drinking. That's their escape. That was their only escape in life. That was their only enjoyment out of life, was to just get drunk or get high. So does that mean all these people need advanced support or need mandatory support to become sober, to change their lives? No, absolutely not. We have to find out what they need first. You hadn't talked about the help provided on site yet when I wrote my comment. Okay, fine, have an excuse, but yes, there has to be some sort of support on site, but we're not making it mandatory, right? We're not just giving someone a place and not giving them support, right? They need to know that this is the support office. Every hotel has some sort of banquet room or meeting room or business center or extra big lobby, right? Throw a desk there. This is the support services person, and you just go there. You just make sure, when you go into a hotel and there's a list of the spa, when the pool opens, when the gym opens in the hotel, what the nearest pizza place is, so you can order at 3 a.m. when you need pizza, right? Those things will be replaced with a list that says, here are the supports available to you free at the support center. Talk to Wendy. She's there from these hours. And if you think you need support overnight, our hotel's staff is now trained to try to help you, support you, right? I mean, yes, there's going to be the supports. And oh, but what about immigrants coming to the country and just abusing the system? Let them. Yeah. Meatball. The only thing keeping our birth rate up right now is new Canadians. Western birth rates are going down. Indigenous birth rates are nice and high, though. So, lots of Indigenous people out there having kids. So that's healthy, at least. We just got to make sure they get homes, right? This could be the same. This same program could be put into all big cities and small towns, right? Every big city or small town is going to have some level of homeless neighbors. Indigenous community is going to be a harder thing, right? Basically, let's just pull in 20 portable units that have at least 2 houses, 2 single homes in each, at the end of each unit. You could get more, the longer trailers. When we went to Jasper this summer, it was the first time we went back since the fire. And at both ends of the communities, there's this big area where there's like 100 portable trailers that are skid shacks that were brought in for local residents, right? Why can that happen for Jasper, but not every Indigenous community across the country? What's going on there? What's going on there? Right? I mean, federal government could say, how many people are houseless in your community? And, you know, the local housing department is trying to create houses, build houses that are needed, and that's a mid and long-term process as they get the funding to build new houses. But right now, the federal government could say, how many units do you need right now? The housing manager would say, we have at least 500 people that are homeless or near homeless. We need 5, you know, we got to get this many units in right now. Just roll it in, man. Depends on the size of your First Nation, right? With Big Stone, I know for sure there was 500 homeless members on the streets of Edmonton. But part of that is because there's just not enough housing and enough jobs back home. They've had to leave. So, anyway. Where's my show notes? Oh, I don't know if this was a good show or a bad show. Sorry, guys. Got back into the houseless neighbors. I was trying to talk about culture. I talked a little bit about culture and, you know, that sense of ownership. So when you see an Indigenous person living in a dog park or something, they're kind of just getting back to their traditional ways of life, in a sense, right? And if that's one thing about Indigenous people, I feel like we've got a genetic memory about how to live off the land. We really don't. But, I mean, it'd be so nice if we did, and we could revert back to living off the land. I mean, that'd be beautiful, right? But then how are we supposed to take over the whole galaxy if most of our people on Earth can't even survive? So, anyway. If you need to get a hold of me for anything at all, right, go into all my links. My $7 ebook in there about how to stop staff drama in your small business in 5 days, right? That's there. And I'm also putting together a similar ebook for Indigenous relations stuff. Start your reconciliation journey in your small business. I'm going to have something like that soon enough. I don't know how long it's taken me time to get these things together. But what else was I going to say? Yeah, if you need to book a meeting with me, the link's in there. That takes you to all my links. My link tree takes you to my link tree. Okay. Jeez, man. Learn to spoke. Anyway, I'm gonna let you go. Everybody have a great day. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Tomorrow's topic is side gigs, side hustles, aka small business marketing. I'm kind of enjoying that topic, so we'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.